Thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is the meeting of the Mashpee Sewer Commission being held today, Tuesday, July 16th, 2024 at 5 o'clock in Mashpee Town Hall, and it's being broadcast on Channel 8 through Mashpee TV. So we will call the meeting to order and start with a Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then we'll call for a moment of silence, and we'll recognize the passing of two people within the Mashpee staff, and Bruce Stella in IT and Lisa Larson in Recreation. Okay, and you have before you the minutes of the meeting from May 21st, 2024. Are there any, may I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I move they be accepted as published. It's interesting to note that we also had technical problems at that meeting.
We do. Is there any
Second.
discussion? Second? Okay, second, and is there any discussion? Thank you. So moved, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Unanimous.
It's unanimous. We'll now move on to public comment. There are a couple of people who'd like to make public comment. Please come forward and state your name and your address to the microphone.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Irene Chekovich, Sunset Strip. First, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for your time and the hard work that you're doing on this incredibly important issue for our town. I'm here tonight to share my thoughts and concerns regarding a matter that was discussed at your last meeting in May. For your information, what I am about to read is a letter to the editor to the Mashpee Enterprise, which may or may not be published, but which I submitted earlier today in order to meet their deadline. Whenever I receive a utility bill for gas, electricity, oil, or water, it outlines how much was used, and the amount owed is a direct result. Seems reasonable to me, especially since it also means that if I wish to lower my bill next month, I can do so by choosing to use less. So why would my Mashpee sewer bill be any different? At the last Sewer Commission meeting in May, a billing system based on bedroom count and not usage was discussed. Upon hearing this, my first thought was, how fair is that? Wouldn't that mean that my elderly neighbor who chose to stay in her 4-bedroom home would pay more each month than the 3-bedroom house next door where 4 adults reside? And what about the couple who only live in their 4-bedroom home for the equivalent of 6 months each year? Would they too be required to pay more than that 4-adult household, even for months when they are not even there? In addition to its being an easier method, one stated reason for this proposed per-bedroom system was that a substantial portion of the town is not on town water. However, according to the Mashpee Water District's December 2023 annual report, town water customers totaled 10,227, surely not an insubstantial number. In comparison as to how many homes and businesses still rely on private wells, despite my best efforts at website searches and phone calls, that information was not readily available, at least not to me. So how do other towns bill for sewer when some residents use town water while others use private wells? After a cursory internet search, one example found was Spencer, Mass., where customers are charged by usage who are either on municipal water or private wells with approved meters, while private well users with no approved meter are charged per bedroom. Closer to home in Barnstable, sewer bills are based on the volume of water used, or for homes not on municipal water, bills are based on their total number of fixtures: sinks, toilets, showers, dishwashers, washing machines. To consider all best practice options for towns such as ours, it would be interesting to learn how other towns throughout Cape Cod and beyond are billing. And ultimately, should Mashpee choose this type of two-tiered billing system, private well users could always be given the option of connecting to town water if they felt that would be better for them. According to Falmouth's website, they recently adjusted their own sewer billing rate structure in favor of usage. One of the stated side benefits of this change, the rate structure encourages water conservation, helping to protect and preserve the town's vital drinking water supplies. By Falmouth choosing a system that promotes both fairness in usage and conservation of water, their leaders are to be applauded. My hope is that each of you will vote to approve a fair and equitable sewer rate billing system for the 10,000 plus users of town water, where their actual usage is already measured, and a system where water conservation is encouraged. In making that decision, please, let's set fairness and water protection as higher priorities over administrative ease. Thank you again for your time and for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I make a suggestion before we go to the next party?
Sure.
Put that on the internet in the form of a letter to,
To us?
no, just as a letter to the town. There's a number of I'm stuck for a word right now. Facebook, for example. Go into Mashpee News Facebook and post that so the people in town can see it. When you put it in a newspaper, it may or may not get read, and I mean, there's only 6 of us and there's 8 of us in this room, you know, so spread it out. You have good points there, and you should be commended for your considerations.
Irene, could we also have a copy of your comments?
I'm sorry.
Could we also have a copy of your comments?
Your letter.
I'd be happy to forward a copy to you. Is that what you want?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
thank you.
That'd be lovely.
Please.
Thank you. Okay, please.
Hi, good evening, Susan Dangle, Katuitt Road. Nice to see you all again. And I really didn't know about the situation, but I have to say, after listening to Irene speak, I agree with what she had to say. I'm here to just say that I've been coming to your meetings over the last year, and I know you're doing your 6-month check. I'm not really liking the once-a-month thing. It seems like it's too far between meetings, and I do think that there are a lot of people anxious to know what's going on with the sewer, when it's coming to them, what they need to plan for. So I would encourage more meeting than less. And Meredith last night actually spoke to the select board talking about more joint meetings where you could be talking with the Board of Health and the select board as well as you all. I just think it would help the public greatly. I'm also looking very forward to tonight's agenda, particularly with regard to Mashpee Wakeby. We've had yet another serious cyanobacteria bloom in June of this year, and our diagnostic study, we had the gentleman who's conducting that. He came to our annual meeting in late June. Although the management plan is not complete, there was some discussion about this cluster system as an opportunity, as well as a likelihood that both basins of Mashpee and Wakeby ponds will need an alum treatment to supplement based on the severity of the degradation of our ponds. So it's very timely, and I'm looking forward to your conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving forward on our agenda, we'll be moving to new business with an update on sewer construction from GHD, from Sandy Tripp. And unfortunately, we are having technical problems that make electronics very difficult to deal with right
I
now.
apologize, well,
It's
I
not
shouldn't
your fault.
apologize, but I'm sorry that it's not working. Picture is worth 1,000 words, but I will do my best to explain what we had happened, not just in the last month, but in the last 2 months, because we did not meet last month.
Sandy, you've put this together yourself for reading to us this evening. We all have emails. Would you send it to us?
Of course,
Thank you.
yes.
Thanks, Sandy.
Starting with the Phase 1 construction and starting with the plant itself, a lot has happened in May and June of this year. A lot of detail work and cleaning up the site and getting ready for the delivery of the electrical equipment so they can tie everything in. Outside on the exterior of the doors, exterior of the buildings, if you visit the site, you'll see that the overhead doors have been installed. We have outside the buildings pads, door pads, pads in front of the overhead doors so that the heavy trucks don't sink in. Exterior lights are up, and windows, of course, and louvers, they're all in. So the exterior of the buildings are looking very, very good. Inside, for example, in the preliminary treatment building, we're beginning to see grading go down, so that preliminary treatment room has some fiberglass FRP grading down over the channels. The equipment is in place, wiring is going in, and the electricians are busy in this plant getting everything wired up, even though they can't terminate in the MCC. Process piping is nearing completion, channel gates are in, the handrails and steps are up. And the process building, a lot of the same. We've got overhead doors, louvers, and doors all installed. Chemical fill stations are installed, so when the chemical trucks come in, they can just connect through an opening in the wall rather than run their hoses through doors. Translucent panels have been up, exterior lights, and we're also starting to see some site work like leaching pits going in and rain gardens. The process building is ready for gas service. We can't turn it on yet, but it's all piped in. The gas company will not start your gas service until you actually have something to operate, which makes sense. And until we have power, we're not going to have anything to operate. Inside the process building, the blower rooms, the stainless steel air piping that I showed you last time, that's pretty much complete. Not only the piping to the Phase 1 blowers, but piping connections for the future phases, including the Phase 2 blowers that are under design right now. Again, things have been wired up. In the chemical room, we have chemical feed pumps in place. Chemical tanks have been there for a while, as well as containment areas in case there's a tank that might spring a leak, which I've never seen one do, but it's possible that the chemical would be contained within that structure. Permeate pumps, this is part of your secondary treatment, your biological processes. Those pumps are in place, installed, and being wired up. The electrical room, it looks like a spaghetti factory in there right now because there's a lot of wiring hanging out of the walls. It's been terminated at the equipment, but it's hanging there waiting to be terminated at the various panels. Again, downstairs in the MLSS pump room, this is a long, long room, and we've got 2 pumps. That's the first 2 out of 8 that will be installed in that building. And outside, the sand beds have been installed, all 4 of them now. We have a little pocket of soil is still on site on one of them, but all 4 of those beds have been installed and are ready for service. Any questions on the plant itself?
Didn't you do some work on the odor control?
They did. They did.
Where does that stand?
Honestly, I don't know.
They hadn't gotten all the pieces yet as of our meeting the other day. Our meeting last week, they hadn't gotten all the pieces yet, but some of the pieces have come in.
Yeah.
So they've started assembling what they do have, and they're just waiting for some of the
Pretty
other
Yeah.
So I said, when I went back, this is starting to look like an industrial park back here.
Okay.
I just have one question for you. I went to go to visit the plant one day, and I noticed that there weren't any cars there. Are there any days that are not good for visiting?
Friday, the contractor's usually off-site. Did you go on a Friday?
I did.
Yeah. And because the contractor's not there, our people tend not to be there either.
Thank you.
If you ever want to come on a Friday, just let us know, and we'll
I can
be
make
there.
arrangements to come on a day when people are there.
Yeah.
It would make more sense.
Monday through Thursdays are best.
Thank you.
On the collection system side, the north side is the smaller of the two projects, which is all piping. And they are substantially complete. In May and June, they were milling and overlaying, placing final payment for that contract. And they're currently working on punch list items and closeout items. So that project's going well. I have pictures of the milling and the overlay and the restoration along the roads and things like that that are going on. So you're going to see some people milling around outside, but probably doing punch list work. On the south side, that's the one with the two pump stations. They worked a lot on Orchard Road, and they did a lot at the pump stations. The pictures I have will show the privacy fencing that's gone up around the generators so that you don't notice the generator from the roads. Also some landscaping. It's small now, but it will grow. So that landscaping should fill in. Same thing with, that's both the Falmouth Road lift station, pump station, and the Mashpee Neck pump station. As far as cash flow goes, I'll just kind of give you some data from each of the jobs. The treatment plant, the contractor has not asked for a time extension yet. They will. They're waiting to see where things land. But of our contract time, we've expended about 80%. So we've gone through 636 out of 790 days. We've got 154 left in the contract. And they're about 76% complete. The contract value is close to 30 million. It's 29.9 million right now. And they've been paid 22.8 million. On the north, with the activity to close this up, they have seen some pretty significant, for this $5 million project, there's some significant payments in the last couple of months. They have 43 days left out of their 636-day contract. That's about 94% of the time gone, and they're about 84.8 or 85% complete. Now, I expect to get that there will be a credit at the end of this job back to the town, which is nice. We try to make that happen on linear projects. So success on this one. And then on the south side, the one with the pump stations, they have 154 days left as well, same as the plant. They're about 90% done on payment, with 80.5% of the time complete. Their contract value now is close to 10 million. It's 9.99 million. And they've expended 8.98 million out of that. Phase 1A, the alternate rebid project. Any questions on the collection system? Okay. Just to bring you up to speed and up to date and remind you, the engineer's estimate was 5.2 million on this project. Your low bid was 4.7 million, so that's good. And the bids came in between 4.7 and 6 million, which is also good. They're nice, good bids. We have, over the last couple of months, got the authorization to award. We've awarded the project. The contracts have been signed by everybody, and they issued the notice to proceed. The contract starts on July 10th, so it's started. And we're holding the next step is the pre-construction meeting, which is being held tomorrow. So we're off and running. This is a 19-month contract, which means we will end in February 2026. And just to remind you, this includes the Brewster Road pump station and the Brewster Road little subdivision area. I think 5 small roads that we didn't pick up as part of the Phase 1 contract. And on Meeting House Road, we've got a strip of low-pressure sewer going in. On the Phase 2 design, I can go, do you want to take over, or do you want me to?
You can
Okay.
continue on, yep.
Okay. So you will still see surveyors and soil boring crews out around the area for Phase 2. Believe the soil boring should be complete toward the end of July, and the surveyor will be out there a little bit longer. As far as the product goes, our design, we've completed the 30% design for the linear work, working on the 60%. 5 out of the 6 pump station sites have been finalized. We're working on the 6th. That means our pump station sites are working on their 30% submittals. Permitting has begun for the normal permitting. The groundwater discharge permit has been ongoing since we signed up. That's a critical path item. It's going to take a while to get that. And then we are doing some improvements at the plant itself, and those improvements we're finalizing and going into internal review for our 60% design. So we're on track for that job.
You just mentioned the bunch of pump stations that are gonna end up down near Pirates Cove. How soon can we expect you to start digging up the roads in Pirates Cove and installing those pump stations?
So we're not gonna be putting a pump station now in Pirates Cove. We removed one of those because of the plot of land we had. Literally, if we put the station in there, a person would be able to reach out their window and touch the building, and we felt that nobody was gonna be happy with that situation. Additionally, we would've had to build a retaining wall because it was on a very steep hill, and that whole area is like that, so we're gonna go predominantly low pressure, so we don't have to have the expensive lift stations everywhere. So, and the intent is to own, operate, install through SRF funding, is the intent.
Want to repeat that again? What are you gonna do to get the wastewater out of there?
Yeah.
Use the low-pressure grinder pumps and push them up farther up the Mashpee neck until we get to a first lift station, which will be on Spinnaker.
So how many grinder,
Okay, what have we got? We've got
how many?
60 houses or 70 houses in there? And they're all gonna end up with a pressure pump?
Not all of them. Some of them, because of the way the house is laid out and the septic plan, if it's about 25% of the properties, they'll actually probably share with the neighboring property, because the grinder pumps can handle them for those size houses. But if the homeowner if they really want to have their own, that we're going to have it all out there plenty of time, so they can decide, hey, we want to have our own. We're actually looking at those plans today.
How do they
There's gotta be at least one
What about-
gravity section in there.
What about maintenance?
Nope. So we would also had to have gone, in some cases, I would say closer to 40 feet with the pipe, if we did gravity, because the property literally goes like this the whole way. So in order to achieve that, we would have had to have been really, really deep with pipe, which would also really increase the cost. So it was a swap out of large diameter pipe at super deep depths. We're gonna go with shallow, low pressure, 5 feet down. Water department made it easy for us to do crossings. We don't have to have a huge, gap between it. We're just gonna sleeve the pipes, so it's a lot faster and cheaper. The electrical concern with the grinder pumps, we've talked with FR Mahoney, and we're looking at putting what they did on the vineyard, which is these control panels, so the homeowner doesn't have to worry about electrical service might not be strong enough at the house, or if they're sharing, who gets the electric bill type situation. So we're gonna bring them all back to a central box that will have all the controls into it, and if we get an alarm in the middle of the night, it'll go through that box. An additional bonus is that if we have a period of long power outages, instead of going around trying to plug each home in hours and hours and hours, we can just go up to one panel, plug it in, kick on the pump down 30 houses if we want to. The boxes, biggest one I've seen is almost 50.
You're saying you would bring in a generator,
Yep.
not a pump?
Right, a wheel-mounted generator, and just plug it in there, energize the chambers, they'll get rid of the
So
waste.
that's the equivalent of a pumping station.
So the waste,
Yes, the controls would control all the pumps. It'd be like turning on the pump station that everything grad fed to, but instead it'd be multiple pumps.
I was asking for an estimate when we're gonna be digging,
When you're going to
gonna
be
be
digging
prepared
in,
to put in the street mains.
The street mains will probably go in, this should be bid in next winter, say March,
Yeah.
which means you're gonna go in around July, is when they're gonna get their contract.
A
And then
year
it's gonna
from
take
now.
a couple months to go. So it's gonna be late summer when they start.
You said a year from now,
Yeah, basically.
right, okay.
Can you confirm, Jared, please, how the maintenance, is the town, the wastewater department is going to be on top of the maintenance of these things?
Yes,
So homeowners,
yes, they don't have to
Won't
worry
be-
about having those separate little side contracts or anything like that.
Okay.
If the pump breaks, they're not gonna get hit with the, if it's a new core, that could be closer to $3,200.
so the town will be responding to?
Yeah, and what they'll do is they'll be embedded in the, in their bills. Usually it works out like, if we do it from the beginning, and you start basically banking the money on your retained earnings, it could be as little as $1 in the bill. It could be even lower than that. It could be pennies, depending on how much the fund raises up, and that'll be one of those things that we discuss every year when we do rates, is, okay.
For the
We
maintenance.
haven't had that much in maintenance. Can we reduce rates since we have this pool of money still sitting there that we're reinvesting? And so,
Okay, just,
but they're under warranty for the first couple of years, so usually it's just a matter of us man-hours, pulling out the pump, sending it away, and then putting it
Okay.
back in.
Thank you, Sandy and Jared.
but don't you have a presentation with them, with Pirates Cove coming up
Yes, this weekend.
this weekend? Or-
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Can, you let me know what, I'd like to attend.
I'm still trying to find out where it's at. I
Okay.
just,
Okay,
I was
thanks.
asked, yep.
That's all I have.
Just one more question, Cindy. Are we on track now for, what's the date for completion for the final plant and for the first phase?
For which phase?
The first phase,
Phase one?
yeah.
When are we gonna
Yep.
be running a phase one, where we're actually processing waste for 400
It
units?
used to be
Looking
July
at
1st,
July.
2025?
Next year.
Okay, July 2025, okay, thank you.
So,
The startup would start in, the beginning of startup would start up in January. That's redundant.
So the completion.
begin startup in
So it'll take 6 months for it to really be all
We have a
completed for-
90-day period to introduce wastewater into the system, and then we have to put it through its performance phase. You will begin, so I guess the question is, when will we start treating? That's gonna be January, February, March, April, right through there, we're gonna start bringing people on.
First quarter.
Yeah.
We
I have
gotta do
another
a wet
question.
run first, find all our
clear
leaks.
water test.
Clearwater test is right now scheduled for January.
I have another question, Jared. How is the town going to document the residential connection process? Are they going to document the initiation and the completion and the abandonment of the septic? How is that going to be?
So we're building a
Documented.
packet right now. When I first got here, I had a customer
You,
call
you
me.
said a form, I just
Yeah,
didn't know where
so,
that was.
Yeah, that form, it is on my computer. Not fully completed. We keep thinking of, oh, we should add that. But it's gonna be a full informational packet that when the commissioners, when you guys say it's time to tie in, we're opening it up. We're gonna send out this mass mailing with all that information to the customers,
I'd
step
like-
by step.
I'd like to start envisioning how we're going to post some of this information to the website, so.
So a lot of it's gonna be done through Permitize. We haven't had the first training yet, so the hope is it'll eliminate a lot of the paper portion of it. So my paper book that I have right now will hopefully just get dropped down to a much smaller, here's your checklist,
Okay,
here's the webpage.
That
If
would-
you don't know how to operate the webpage, come on down, we'll have a computer set up and we'll walk you through the process.
so the form itself, we will be able to post as an example to everybody
Yes,
on the
it'll
website.
be right on the website.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item that we have on the agenda was one that Phyllis had suggested, and I'm not quite sure what it pertains to, but I think it has to do with being able to collect information about sewer disposal and diseases. I think it'd be similar to being able to predict the degree or the effect of COVID when COVID was a big issue. And I think this was the meaning of that, but see, she's not here, so I can't, I'm speaking for her. So is there anything that has been discussed about being able to collect data about the wastewater?
So I've had some discussions with the Board of Health,
Okay.
with Zach. He's not for just testing for the sake of testing, which I'm in agreement with. A lot of times the information won't be as accurate as what a medical lab might do, how they collect the samples, what type of testing. It's more efficient, and they get that information anyways. So he feels it would just add another layer of confusion in the process. That we started doing the vineyard for COVID, and the Board of Health directors were like, stop, we're getting everything, from the state. They found that with seasonal communities, it wasn't a true indicator. If you have a high tourist rate, day trippers could screw up your accounts and make you think we're going someplace we're really not. So there is variables that do affect it, but we both agreed that there should be a trigger, at least, like if there's a public health emergency and he needs testing, by all means, we're gonna do testing. Or if a third-party company, let's say they wanna come in and do testing, sure. As long as the Board of Health, signs off on the medical side of it, we can accommodate it, and it's gonna be at the expense of whoever needs the testing. We're not gonna pay for.
This is a Board of Health issue. It doesn't
Yep.
belong here.
And that's what, him and I talked about that.
Let's take it off the agenda.
Yeah. But I think in a way, it does bring up the idea that, from last night's meeting, that there needs to be conversation and coordination among
it's gonna
various commissions, and Health Department is one of them, under certain specific circumstances. Okay, so we can move forward to the next item on the agenda. Was a summary of the coastal conference that was held June 18th. And this was a coastal conference that was sponsored by the Wacoit Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve. And the important thing about this conference, and many people had attended it, it was a composite of town leaders across the region, and it also emphasized the need for collaboration across towns, agencies, communities, that recommended following science and clearly laying out the problems and seeking mutual solutions. Most importantly, finding funding across agencies and intermunicipal agreements and cooperation. I really believe that one of the things that had come out of this conference is that Mashpee is on track. We need to move faster, we need to move more coordinatedly, but we could see ourselves in so many of the different presentations, and it made us all feel quite good about it. So Jared, Catherine, and Al were all there, so I'd like to hear a brief summary of what you thought was important to you, and then I'll sum it up.
Well, I was just thrilled that they focused on the importance of partnerships and collaboration for achieving watershed management plans and many other things, and just down to the collection of science. So, I mean, there were cases like the Pleasant Bay Alliance across multiple towns. Andy Gottlieb mentioned, emphasized the Cape, Barnstable County comprises 15 towns and 53 different watersheds. So to manage a watershed, you have to have partnerships. And it just reminded me how important it is to recognize partnerships like that the community has, like Mashpee has with the Mashpee Wakeby Pond Alliance, the Santuit Pond Group. I mean, it's just really important to have that and to bring information to the voters through those agencies as well as from the town. That kind of partnership is essential to success of projects and planning. And it emphasized to me how important diversity is on our planet. It's not just ecological diversity, but it's cultural diversity, and the diversity across our personal and professional experiences brings so much to the table when we're planning to solve major challenges to not just water quality, but our environment quality, and develop a plan for resilience across the Cape, and how important water quality is to just developing that resilience. And it just reminded me, having been in disaster response and management and disaster planning and prevention and all that stuff, research, and seeing how far we've come, to think about resilience as to where we were when I was involved with Katrina back in 2005, just to see how far we've come in developing plans for resilience that encompass so much more than just stacking plastic bottles of water for everybody in case there's a flood contaminating water. We have to make it possible for our water systems, all our water systems, to be resilient to those kinds of events. And anything that involves water means wastewater. So that's essential to remember. All our infrastructure supports the quality of our lives. And I just thought it was so exciting. I mean, I just walked out of there just hyper psyched that there was so much success to report, and that we're part of it here in Mashpee. So that was my takeaway.
What she said.
Can you use your microphone, please?
Yes, you could take a look at the conference, and the first part was the big picture, and what they have, examples of what they've done on the Cape, and how to go through the grant programs and everything else. And I felt very good about where Mashpee stood in what was going on. The second half, or the final breakout sessions, were more small picture, getting into the nitty-gritty rather than looking at the big picture. I went to the one that was on-site denitrification systems. I have to admit, I am far from an expert on enhanced IA systems, but it was a really, really, they talked for 20 minutes. I've got a lot of notes. I took pictures of all the slides, so if anybody wants to see them. But I have a better feeling about the IA systems than I did before, and I think that in some cases, that may be exactly, I don't know if this is the type of thing that you're looking into in some areas, but I was very impressed. I was very impressed. And just to talk with other people that are going through the same things that we're going through, and hearing, you know, their agita, and it was a really good conference, and I look forward to going to another.
Yeah.
It was extraordinary that every region, every town, each one of the 15 towns is dealing with the same things: management of wastewater, stormwater, fertilizer, removal of nutrients, prevention, restoration of wetlands, water bodies. It's all connected, and it was all covered. And there was a question that came up at town meeting. I'm not sure if it was the May meeting or the October meeting, and one of the residents of Mashpee had said, so how do we know whether this is going to be successful? And one of the groups that did present was the Pleasant Bay group, and that was an amazing collaboration among Chatham, Harwich, Brewster, in Orleans. And it really showed how collaboration, how education, how community work. And I had read that they were quite successful in just their 5 years of collaboration, and I brought that up at the meeting, and I was very surprised when they said, we need to be cautious before we start to talk about realizing real successes. Yeah. But they've already started to see some changes in their water, redundancy or renewal of fish coming back. So there is hope if we then see how collaboration and comprehensive working together does work together. And we have a comprehensive plan for Mashpee. We need to make sure that that gets published and that it gets acted on. So we have a start, but we need to move forward much faster. The other thing that made me feel very good about it is that we know that Michaela Colombo, Select Person Colombo, and the Department of Natural Resources head Ashley Fisher have been working on the intermunicipal agreements. We're started with that, so we're moving forward with that. We'll need to get an update from them to come back to our meetings that they have in the past to tell us where are we with the intermunicipal agreements and how closely we're going to be moving forward with them. I was impressed as well with the nitrogen removal technologies. There were so many different kinds. And looking at our 2015 plan, we knew that that's a comprehensive plan. It includes shellfish aquaculture, it includes sewering, it includes IA systems, it includes a number of different areas, and we have seen success that they have worked with collaborative work together in other communities. And the last one that I heard, and I was so proud of Mashpee presenting our shellfish propagation program, was Ashley Fisher again, who presented this wonderful workshop on aquaculture using oysters and quahogs. And I had no idea that when our plan was first established in 2015, look at the time frame that our planning has taken place and how we were with the sewer just beginning to be being broken in 2022. But initially, the aquaculture program was carrying the shoulders of our nitrogen mitigation. And one of the things that was brought up was how difficult it was to have the shellfish growing in water that was not yet ready for shellfish to be propagated. So the successes and the failures were talked about, and the new solutions of how we're moving forward and what things have already been started. I think it's time for us to have a timetable. And I would like to put our consultants on the line, and our wastewater superintendent, that we do come up with, you know, one of the things that was laid out. Shellfish propagation phase 1 is underway. Sewering from Mashpee River, Shoestring Bay, Hamlin Pond, underway. Small cluster systems being discussed and coordinated. Nutrient mitigation technology being started, underway. So again, having a timetable of milestones of where we are, what we're doing, will give us a very good idea of not just moving through, as we hear from Sandy each time you do a presentation, of how well we're doing, but it'll give us timetables and it'll give us metrics in order to see where we are. And we should be very proud with where we're going. So, Jared, you were also there. Is there anything that you'd like to bring up from the conference itself?
It was good just seeing what the rest of the Cape is doing and talking to the people I haven't been able to meet yet, who are the other, my counterparts in other towns and different boards and committee members, and just seeing where everybody's going and what discussions have been had, and you know, getting to some of those details like these cluster systems. And Scott Horsley did that presentation on the one that we worked on in the vineyard. So it's I'm glad. I want our project to be his project, just as a personal thing, you know. But you know, it's good to see the other people looking at the idea, and it wasn't just a crazy idea of, you know, creating cluster systems to fill in the gaps or get to those difficult to reach areas of pipe. So.
Well, you had also mentioned that you had worked in Tisbury, and one of the other areas that impressed me was that both, I think it was Tisbury and Hyannisport, came up with a wonderful solution of being able to address housing as well as wastewater management, and looking at clusters of bringing the town and the community services and the quality of life all together as they move forward with housing. So those are the two big factors that we have to deal with here in Mashpee: wastewater, housing, the balance between the two. And there are solutions. Tisbury was one of them. The other one was Barnstable, or it was Hyannisport. But there are models that we can follow, and we just need to hold our various groups, planning and housing and sewer commission and select board, for us to, and Board of Health, for us all to be having conversation at different times when they're needed. Not empty conversations, planning conversations. Is there anything else that anyone would like to share?
Just say how important it is, data collection, and being able to collect good data from the get-go, and whether it's contractors, scientific academia, or just citizen volunteers collecting data that we can pull together and analyze and start to see trends in the future, I'd like to be able to start envisioning how we can work towards that in the coming years. Because it was just so fascinating just to be reminded on and on again that environmental problems are very complex. They are complex. People want simple solutions to complex problems. That just does not happen. And this goes to show, again, why diversity and getting people together from all walks of life to focus on a common threat is the best way to come up with solutions and work towards achieving them. So that's science.
And unfortunately, we didn't have a meeting June 18th. However, I think that a great deal came out of the conference, and I think we have a plan for being able to move forward. And it was great that we were all there, but had to be very aware of the open meeting law and not talk too much to each other. The next item on the agenda is the reorganization of the Sewer Commission. And Joe, you wanted me to call on you?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Meredith as the new chairman of the Sewer Commission.
And I'd like to second
Need a
that.
second? Yeah.
I got beaten.
Is there any discussion?
Absolutely not. I think you deserve it,
Like
and
you
we
to
need
call a
you.
motion?
A
We need
motion,
you.
please? Could we have a motion from you?
Will
I move
motion.
that Meredith Harris be our new chairperson.
That was my motion, yeah.
Okay, that is your motion.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's seconded?
Seconded.
Yeah.
Seconded.
All in favor? Oh, let's do a roll call, please. Catherine,
Aye.
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 am I allowed to vote?
Yes.
You can do
Aye.
anything you want. You're the chairman.
I also
She
vote
agrees.
aye. I agree.
All right, I'd like to make a second proposal, and that is to change the future meetings to Thursday at 2 PM as we had them previously. The frequency is another issue. We should have them as often as needed.
Yeah.
But let us get it back into a working environment instead of this evening uselessness.
The only problem with entertaining that as a motion, we had agreed to have this go through for 6 months, through August. So I would like to maintain that motion and just defer it to our next meeting so that we have gone through that 6-month cycle. Part of the reason for that was because of the need or hope for increased participation and we have been keeping track of how much more participation we have had or not. And so I'd like to hold off on that until August, to the next meeting.
Yeah, and I would propose that we consider at that time maybe every 2 weeks again.
Which is what Joe is proposing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's to have it every 2 weeks.
Okay.
And to also change the time.
Right, I don't have any concept of the need just to follow up and have it on a Thursday at 5 PM when nobody can make it anyway and nobody comes. Why do we have it one more time? That's not necessary. We can make the decision not to do it. I'd like to have a decision whether we change it now or you can change it in a month. But I made the motion that we change it now.
I would say that if, like he was saying, if you made the decision now to say next month's meeting, or the next meeting come up would then put you at 6 months, we just made the decision that that first meeting in the 6th month
Would
is
be,
gonna be at the normal time. The
Thursday, 2
Thursdays at
PM.
2 PM.
And that's subject to it being available again.
with Susan being available.
Yeah, I think that's
You
one
being
of the,
available and the town also
that's
being
one of the
available.
reasons why it went to once a month, because
Because there were no,
I
the
had a
time,
conflict.
that's true. And also
It's
there was,
back to its normal, the way it used to be, there was never a conflict before.
so Thursday, so the motion, can you rephrase your motion again then, please, Joe?
I'd like to schedule our meetings to tentatively every other week, starting
In
2 weeks.
August.
Yeah, starting 2 weeks from today on the Thursday at 2 PM. 2 weeks from today.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that. Yep.
And is there any discussion?
So just, today is the 16th.
Yep.
16th, that'd be August 2nd.
It'd be the
No,
18th
first.
plus 14, 28, 32. It'd be July 2nd or 3rd.
August.
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 August 1st would be the Thursday.
August 1st. Okay.
And the time would be?
2 PM, providing you can get us that time.
I think we would need to just explore all of the different contingency, our contractors being available, the room being available, but we can vote on it as a motion, and then I can sort out the details, and then if, depending on how the vote goes.
Just as a point of clarification, it used to be I think the 1st and the 3rd,
It was the 2nd and 4th.
2nd and 4th.
Yes.
So that
Extra
would,
week,
that would be saying that we would be starting
the 8th.
on the 8th of August.
Well, we could start either on the 1st or the 8th. It's no big deal. Is there a reason why we want to go 1st and 3rd or 2nd and 4th? What's the logic?
There may be some contingency issues with the room or
Right.
Mashpee TV, and those are the things that we would just need to check on.
Yep.
So why don't I explore the possibility of August 1st
Either,
or August 8th, and then
on a
get.
2-week cycle.
On a
right?
two-week cycle and
2
see.
p.m.
At 2 PM, and but I need a vote. Then on the motion, so I'm gonna call the vote, and then we'll go from there.
Work it out. Yep.
Okay.
We'll do a roll call vote. Catherine?
I agree.
I agree.
Joe? I also agree.
See.
So it's unanimous.
Yeah, I just have a related concern. We're down 2 people on the commission now.
Yeah.
I think we need to encourage people who are interested to present present their qualifications or to participate.
There
How
is
can-
someone sitting in the audience as
How
a
can we
member
do
of the
that?
public.
How can
I
we
did
get that?
raise, I did sit in, I did sit in on the select board meeting last night, and I raised it because in looking at our rules and regulations, one of the things is that vacancies need to be announced within the town and by the select board, and then they are followed up 30 days, and we haven't heard any
So cool.
notice of whether or not anyone has applied for the position or has put their names in. So I think it's a combination of us looking for people and also the select board looking for people.
Okay.
And any of you who are members of the audience, please feel free to come forward and speak to
Or
us.
encourage others.
We truly encourage you.
Other partners that you have in your organizations to encourage participation. So,
Can I just make a suggestion? I work with 4 other committees and commissions, and when they're in need of members, volunteering members, they reach out to the town moderator, and he sends advertisements to the newspaper. And he also, I believe he posts online somewhere, I'm not sure though, where.
there's a list of open positions, I think.
Yeah, it is listed on the select board.
They sent one out
Yes.
a few months ago.
I'm also a bit remiss because we've only chosen the chair. We need to choose an assistant chair and a recorder. Is there a nomination? I nominate Catherine as assistant chair.
Oh, thank you. But I was actually thinking of nominating Al because we're entering a period of important work at the wastewater treatment plant, and I know you're so good at paying attention to the wastewater treatment plant with the oversight of the clear tests and the other operators coming on board, and I think he'd be a great resource for that, and it might be good to have him.
I
Help.
second the motion.
Okay. Ready?
Would you accept?
Yes?
Excellent. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Excellent. Okay, and recorder?
Oh. I guess I can do it.
I
Yep.
nominate Catherine
Yeah.
then as
And I'd be
recorder.
happy to second that.
I'll
And
handle
seconded.
that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so the business of the reorganization of the sewer commission is completed. The business of the organization of the time of the meeting is started, and we'll just get the details on that. And the next, we have an update, I'm not an update, is a presentation by the wastewater superintendent, Jared Meter.
So I actually have several things I'm gonna go through. Some people might not be aware, but tonight I have to go out and get signatures from houses so we can have right of access. I'm gonna try to go fast but be coherent, so please let me know to slow down if I start going too fast. So one of the things is because we didn't have last month's meeting, we had to put some articles forward by a deadline, so they were submitted as placeholders. These are the articles, were inside the packet that I gave you. I'll give a little bit of history on the first couple, and that is the staffing plan. So originally the town was given a price of $880,000 a year to run the plant through contract ops. What that entailed was basically an operator 4 hours a day. One of the things, because of the design flow of the plant being over 360,000, but in this first phase it'll be 120,000, that puts us into an area where we're supposed to try to use the staffing plan to determine how we staff the plant. The way it works out is we're supposed to have 3.2 operators operating the plant. So I called one of the companies that does contracted ops, and I was given a price of $240,000 a year per operator, which was kind of caught me by surprise. And it entails a lot of other benefits that we don't necessarily need, like on-call engineer service. We got 3 engineer firms already working for the town. Is that something we really need? So talked with the town manager about this situation. He had me put together what it would cost if we used our pay scale benefits for an operator. And so I put 2 articles forward to create the positions. One is the lead operator. That person will run the plant, the day-to-day operations, mid-level management or supervisor, foreman kind of type position. And then the other one's an operator. Grade 4 is technically what the operator will eventually be. But I explained that it's an opportunity to also invest in the community, put a job out there that somebody wants to get into a new field like I did, where, you learn your way up. So we budgeted it for the full pay, but the intent is when somebody comes in without a license, that's the incentive to get your licenses quicker. Your pay goes up as you get it, so we have it funded. Or we could get lucky and get a grade 4 operator that wants to come right here and start up right away. So those 2 articles are for, create those positions. So the next one, the utilized funding previously approved. So in the Article 19 in the May town meeting for 2022, there was money set aside, approximately, I believe it was $80,000. Yes, $80,000 to start doing some of the groundwater studies. The article was written a little restricted that we couldn't use it for phase 3, and we didn't necessarily need it for phase 2. So what we're asking is to basically give the money back to the town, and then a later article, we're applying it to the phase 3 project to reduce that initial cost. And there's a breakdown in that following article where the overall was $230,000. We're gonna apply the $80,000, so it'll only actually be $150,000 that we need for that study. So those 2 could have gotten a little confusing. The other one is a article for $45,000 to evaluate 2 existing wastewater treatment facilities. Southport and Willow Bend have both approached the town. We've done an initial look at the facilities. Both of them are operated well. They're meeting their permits. They, some of the equipment in one of the facilities especially is extremely new. They had to do an upgrade. Now it's time, and then they also have recharge capability, which is something we're always trying to find. And they're pre-built buildings and systems that we can also apply sewer rates to, which would reduce everybody's overall cost. The average operating budget they use is about $200,000 a year. The revenues in return, depending, would greatly increase by having, like, I know if we use the bedroom type system as an example, because it's easy to quantify, 1,500 bedrooms right off the bat would get brought into the system.
That's if you connect those systems.
They're already connected. We don't
I
even
mean,
have
to the wastewater treatment
we don't
plant.
have to cut it. We just use their existing plant and run the existing plant.
Oh,
They want to hand it all over. They don't want to control it
Really?
anymore. And we would keep the escrow accounts for a period of time, because even though this money is to have the engineers go in there and really dig into, see what these bones are like, there's always that chance that a tank might crack due to stress, age fatigue. So we'll have money available that they're already required to keep in escrow that could take care of those type of things, so it doesn't suddenly get thrown on the taxpayers. And then after a certain amount of time, if we don't use the money, it then gets returned back to the original escrow account holders.
Joe?
Southport has been seen by certain individuals, including myself, as a solution to the west side problem of pollution. Johns Pond area specifically, and down into Wacoit Bay. And it has been seen because it can be expandable, and because it also can be a disposal area for the processed water. Is that still in the mentality of the present group, yourself and the boss?
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
Good show.
Yep, so that's what we're doing. We're gonna try to get that actual engineered report.
so I was just gonna say, have you checked the compliance record?
Yep,
For permits?
they've shipped us everything, including their operating budgets and what they spent money on each year. They're being very cooperative.
would.
And they're all their compliance records?
Yes, they've been giving everything to us, and that's what Mark's been going through, just reviewing those, and that's when he just told me recently that, no, I think we can go to the next level now, and at least now really dig into these facilities.
Great.
Yeah, they might even require a little bit of upgrade, but, one of the places looking, actually both of them are looking at doing irrigation with the effluent, which then does greatly expand our, recharge capabilities, so those are things that we're gonna look at as well. And then the last one was a funding article for the Pimlico Pond Road area is what I've been calling. So I had put a project out there that was designed to, if anybody was interested. It was just more of a feeler. Well, people are extremely interested, and which I'm really excited about. Then it had evolved into what we need to get SRF funding. So talked to Mark, can we get that? So the original thing was, no, we don't think we can meet the deadline. We don't have funding, for the project. There has to be a study.
What is the need for this project?
So it is
I'm at a
inside.
loss here.
So this project, it's gonna do a nitrogen and phosphorus removal. So directly that land bridge that hits the Mashpee Wakeby Pond, you're gonna, basically 240 properties up there, be able to bring them into one cluster system. I didn't want to get into the whole, so when I looked at the property of 240 properties, if you took and said, okay, every one of those homes, you're not in the sewer plans, in any of the phases, but you're gonna have to eventually get an IA system in order to treat it. Average cost, we used $45,000 is that we were tracking with the nitros. If you pool that money all together, it works out to $9.5 million.
Yep.
So if we were to build a project under the town,
Yep.
and the original plan was you apply for SR funding, getting them put on the plan, and then assign a betterment just to those homes. So instead of you paying $40,000, it might only be $5,000 or $10,000, broken out over 20 years and not done right away. Now with the SRF funding, it could be a lot greater decrease, and that, once we get all this information together, we do the study, that's when we'll come back to the board and say, do you want to move forward? How do you want to move forward? Do you want to go like we did with the previous phases, or do we want to look at, breaking it down to betterments? But that'll be through that whole cost analysis. So what we did do is we put an article together this year to get the funding to do that. Since I put the article together, we found out that the timeline we were worried about for getting the PEF in, we can submit the PEF without all the supporting documentation, because during the public comment period, we can still submit more information to beef up our project. I asked, Mark wasn't never done it that way before, so he wasn't sure, so we called the DEP, and they confirmed that they will do it.
What's the timeline?
What you're saying is you put a small unified system up there, and then our management will also run that
Yes.
as part of their process, as they would be running Southport and Willow Bend and the transfer station units. So this is just another pocket unit. And quite frankly, from my earlier investigations, we got 3 semi-trailers and that's it. That's all you need up there, and the whole system will fire as long as we can get rid of the wastewater. That's the hang-up.
Right, and that's one of the things we were looking at when we look at this project. We're not looking to expand, like bring sewer from
Right.
other areas back to here.
Right.
We're talking about replacing the
Concentrate.
existing current septics with just a one central system. So the groundwater permit should be no big deal. It's almost a
Your
one-for-one.
costs included all the piping to a
Yes, and
central
that's what we were
location.
looking at, and we were looking at other routes. So I did provide you with a, I guess I'm kind of getting the cart before the horse, but since we're on the topic, it's listed again later on, but there
Before
is
we
a,
go into the cluster,
Oh,
can we
let's get
just get a vote on the motions,
Concept?
on the warrants? Because the warrants will need to move forward to the select board with us deciding whether we want them to go forward, and then we can talk specifically about this one. Okay?
yes, yep.
Okay, so the motion is to accept the warrants that were presented as placeholders to now be considered by the sewer commission to have these submitted under the sewer commission's name.
So move.
Okay, in a second?
Yeah, I agree.
That's a second, okay.
I agree.
Discussion, please.
I just have, I'm sorry, I'm a technical editor.
Yep, no problem.
Third page, second paragraph, first line, under explanation. Say collect and treat wastewater instead of treatment. That's it.
Use the word treat instead of treatment?
Treatment.
Is that all you're
Collect
saying?
and treat wastewater.
If we corrected every word that I ever misspelled.
I know, it's, I
You'd be
just,
employed for the rest of your
that's,
life.
I know, I'm crazy, but I'm sorry. That's just my,
We'll accept the correction or the modification.
Engineers don't learn how to spell, do they?
it's
Susan?
just what
Is-
jumped out
is-
at me, I'm sorry.
Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, right.
Is there any further
Comes
discussion
pouring
about
out.
the warrants?
Who seconded that? Kat?
Joe, I made the motion, Joe, I'm sorry, Al.
I thought Al made the
Al
motion.
seconded.
Okay, got it.
So all in favor of accepting the warrants under the sewer commission's name?
Aye.
Catherine? Al? Joe? Okay, so unanimous, and myself, yes, I accept as well. So these can move forward in terms of warrants that would be submitted under the sewer commission's name. So this last warrant, though, is expanded further to then have you talk about this new cluster system
Yes.
to move forward. And this is, the funding is to evaluate the feasibility of this new system for the Pimlico Pond area.
Yes.
Okay.
One of the
I'll turn
concerns
it
we
over
have
to
is,
you.
so Mark's done a lot of work, like, off contract. As he put it to me was, he doesn't bill us unless he has to produce a product. And so in this case, now we're looking at producing a document. So we, but then we also were informed that there was $183,000 that the county had for nitrogen mitigation money earmarked. I wasn't aware of it, I couldn't find it anywhere, but the town manager actually went on his own hunt, came back, said, the money's there. Can you guys get this submitted? I called Mark and we're gonna make it happen.
This is
Great.
Mark Granville from
Yes.
GHD.
Yep,
Okay,
so
thank
we're
you.
gonna get that submitted this year and push this project.
What does that mean? So if the funding in several different pockets are available, one is for evaluation of the feasibility of it, and what's the $183,000 for?
That was for the phase 3, which is the Wacoy Bay, which we're going to next. This is kind of like, I don't want to use phases like 2A because of how confused everybody got between 1
This is
and 1A.
another
This is the
component.
Pimlico Pond
Area.
project area. And that way it's clearly stated, because I was getting confused myself when I first got hired with all the different phases. So I try to refer to it as that, but we're gonna push that one as, because it could be if successful, it could be a good base model for other small areas in the town and pockets where it's just not cost effective to run the pipe all those miles, just to.
Is there a time frame for it?
I I'm actually having a meeting tomorrow with all the engineer firms. We're gonna sit in a room and put together a year's worth of action items and then, sub-items that we need to get done with dates, deadlines, so we can project for the next year. This is what we plan to accomplish. So I will have more of that type of information.
Could we put it on the agenda for the next meeting then?
I will
Where you
give it-
can give us some
yeah, I'll do
more
an
data
update after
from the
that
next-
meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
You open the door on a general meeting for the engineering overview on where do we go from here and how do we go about it. We have got to step back and reconsider the top of Great Neck South, okay? We've got a large residential area and we've got 2 large condominiums. They would be the cheapest collection units we have got in our entire system, but I want to hold on. They're also the most damaging to the river. We can clean up the whole, everything north of there, and we're not gonna have anywhere near the same results for the dollar spent as cleaning up those units at the top of Great Neck South, because they impact the river directly.
So I'm gonna ask a silly question because I'm still working on my geography here. I'm good with Great Neck. Where's Great Neck South specifically?
From the
Down on
Rotary.
Rotary.
And you just go south.
Okay.
Okay, what we're
That's all
gonna
considered
have
Great
to
Neck
do is
South?
drag the damn pipes through the rotary, which nobody needs,
Straight to
engineering
Seabury,
to do.
straight to
Going-
Seabury.
Towards South Cape Beach.
So I do have a meeting coming up soon with New Seabury.
Hold on, no.
What are the
That's too far
developments?
down, it has nothing to do with the pollution of the river. Don't go there with any thoughts about cleaning up pollution. They're also unique, and they're gonna cause you more trouble than they are worth. What you've gotta do is clean up what we're polluting the river with. And the first one is Sandalwood. There's about 60 houses in there, and then on the right-hand side, there's the.
Seamist.
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 And then there's 2 more units just south of Seamist. So within a half, within 3/4 of a mile of collection.
density.
And then we've got a 2-mile pipe up to processing. We're gonna pick up, another 800 or 900 units. It's big, and it's directly impacting the river. So you clean up everything north of the circle. We're not gonna clean up the river. We blew it. We should have started down there, but we didn't. And I'm not, we went to the east side because it's more obvious the houses are closer to the river.
Well, and that's what we like with the Pimlico Pond Road area, that's another additional benefit to it, is not only is the phosphorus, but the nitrogen, instead of taking 20 years to get out to the bay, it's hopping in the river, and it's fast tracking down there in a matter of weeks or days, depending on the season. And so by eliminating those 240 homes, not only is it just cleaning up that pond, it's gonna be a significant reduction in nitrogen heading down
To the river.
to the river.
But it's a great case to serve for other possible,
Yeah,
if the state supports it, this is great.
And that's just been the hardest part, is that one of the things that the town is blessed with and cursed with. We have a lot of conservation land. I was on the state webpage and it listed everything as what they call Article 96, you can't touch it. Well, now I'm actually doing deed searches and I'm finding, oh no, we can touch it. Somebody was just, made assumptions because it
You
said
can go through
Mashpee
it.
conservation, but it's not deed restricted. So it is giving us a little bit of flexibility, because that's been the hardest part, is like in those areas you're talking about, okay, what if we build a cluster system now? Where will we put it? Where's the town land? Where's the open space? And everything kept running into Article 96, Article 96. Now I'm going back and going, okay, this is back on the table, and redoing it. And if anybody's seen that colorful map in my office that I been literally hand color, that's, when I learn new information, it gets changed colors. So that's what we're doing. But,
Would this then need to have a joint meeting with conservation?
No.
I don't mean
Don't
for
involve
permission, but just for
only if we want to
conversation.
use, there's one specific property that is actually the most
Needed,
ideal
yeah.
property.
Mm.
We will have that conversation. I'll let you know when we're ready for that, because absolutely, there will be at some point a conversation. I didn't want to jump all the way down to Pimlico Pond, but I will, and then I can backtrack.
Okay.
So I gave everybody just a quick map, so when we talk about the Pimlico Pond Road area, it's just the down and dirty, so you can see where I'm talking about
Yeah.
specifically. And all that area in pink is town land. It's all unrestricted. There's only 2 catches, and one is, you'll see a little asterisk there, that's a certified vernal pool. We'd have to stay 150 feet from that, and
Certified what?
vernal pool.
Oh, cool.
Yep, so there's one right there. The land to the right of that certified vernal pool, you see the big blue square?
Yep.
That is a flat piece, because I went and walked those woods last week, one of my afternoons, and I swear to God, I think 2 meteors hit there 1,000 years ago. They are deep, round holes. I mean, they are deep. And I was kind of impressed. I stood on the side of the road and I went, whoa, didn't see that. So that could create a challenge, or the way I look at it is it's just a nice open hole dug for us. We just got to bring in fill afterwards. After we put in the tanks, but
Do they fill in with water?
Yeah, and it-
Rainstorm?
it does have. There's also some of the that little green area to the right. That is just open space to a development. They were required to put in there. That potentially be also areas that we can either put leaching or run the pipes through instead of cutting up the main road, if we can kind of bring them in the back door. That also will hopefully go into the spirit of the conference, which is that land directly north, that sandwich. That's also another piece of open space, town-owned land that they are interested talking with us about maybe grouping this all together, because there's also additionally a trailer park right near there, very dense, that we would love to get on some sort of treatment system. Which could also then help reduce the cost of the project by having another town being there if we keep the system on our side of the road, and additionally give us more points for any funding, just because it's a joint, if it becomes a joint project. The conversation started, but, you get 2 different timelines you kind of got to work with, and town administrators. But just so everybody has a visual, when I talk about it, that is the whole area we're talking about.
Jared,
Yes.
give you one more piece of information. So on Tuesday evening, July 9th, the Zoning Board of Appeals in Sandwich held a meeting where the 40B that was moving forward off of Route 130, it would be on your map, I believe. It's north of Pimlico Pond and next to Peters Pond, right to your left. Right in there, there's 63 acres. They've applied for 140 homes and are applying currently for a wastewater waiver. So I went and spoke vehemently against that, based on the fact that it's next to Pimlico Pond and Peters Pond, and Pimlico Pond, just on the other side of Cove Road, is Wakeby Pond. So just a heads up that that's in the works. They have their eligibility letter from the state, and now they've submitted their building permit with all sorts of waivers, and it's going to be a long process. But then even beyond that, they have another 240 units scheduled closer to Peters Pond, also in that area. So I just want to make sure,
That's the first I've heard of it.
and you're on the IMA, so
Yep.
it was tabled for a long time, and then it just poof came up. So the conversation started last week.
Cool.
Okay, thanks.
Interesting.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So we do now have the article in place to have it funded. So that was what's going on the Pimlico Pond Road. I was just surprised it took off like it did. It really caught me by surprise, and so we'll make it happen though.
How does this fit in with the watershed agreements? Does it have anything to do with them or no?
So the IMA, that's originally where it was brought up at, because I was like, hey, Sandwich is right there, maybe they'll want to be a part of it, and it kind of exploded on its own, and
So it's a yes as a part of the watershed?
that's what it sounds like. I think it's just a matter of dialing in the numbers, the details, how much is it gonna cost? Is it still cheaper for them to go to the base, in some of their situations? So we're gonna look at all that.
But
They do their evaluation
The base
process.
is a solution. There was one individual there who's got that in his head that we couldn't deal with.
I just heard it's an option, and I've talked to the firm that's taken over, it has won the contract for the base, and I don't really know what they're doing and how they're doing it, so
Well, is it the bank or is it the firm that's running the base?
it's a firm now. Yep. No. What's Matt Kennedy's company? Converge. The company's called Converge.
Converge isn't doing it. They're just the money. It's the other company that they had
Well,
bring in.
they're gonna hire,
The military contract. And that
Right.
company has 23 of those military contracts. And nowhere has the federal government allowed anybody to bring anything on the base and process it and take it off the base.
Right.
So Converge ducks me like hell because I keep pointing that out to him. And it's something water company, I forgot its name. There's one guy that does it, and hey, he's written all the contracts with all 23 federal bases that they're running the wastewater process on. Who says it just isn't gonna happen, and this bank guys that are trying to make a profit are just blowing smoke. They've been blowing smoke for 10 years now, and there are people, and there's one in Sandwich, that still believes them.
But you're still continuing to have the conversations and investigate it, and you'll give
Always
us a
continue,
progress
always.
report.
Yep, looking for everything.
Great.
Going back real quickly, since we jumped ahead, so when I was talking about staffing, one of the things I did produce, and you'll see it, it's the page that looks like this. So
Can I
what?
see that?
Yes, it's the one I gave you a copy, yep. So what that page does is we just basically took the prices we were able to identify and some of the additional costs that we would have gotten with the contract operators. And based off of the staffing plan, if we were to just hire it out as contract operators, just in staffing alone, vehicles and tools, it'd be $742,000 a year if we were to contract it out. That'd be the first year. And then if we hired our own staff, purchased our own equipment, we'd be a little less than that, 585. Then what we did was each year we added 5% to, for cost increase for years 2, 3, and 4. And you'll notice on the last page there's a graph, but it just shows you that they already are higher, and then the gap is gonna get much greater as time goes on, because we're not buying trucks every year and paying for them every year, where we would be paying them their $25,000 a year just to use their truck. Tools, for the most part, it's an annual, you'll see I put in there $1,000. That's just to maintain broken tools that might have broke. And then talking with conversation, there's also the opportunity that those costs, like tools and truck, there is a chance that they can actually be part of the Phase 1 project, the initial $56 million. As long as we don't overspend on anything, it is a possibility. So that could also reduce this greater, but I decided to stay conservative and say, nobody's promised me that yet, this is what the cost would be. So that's just if, you can read through on your own and kind of see, this is what's showing that we should probably hire our own staff.
Is Rodney in agreement with that? He was dead set against our own
He
staff.
asked me to present him with the evidence. I presented him with the evidence, and when he saw how much it costs to have a contract operator 40 hours a week, he quickly said, you can get 2 operators for the price of 1? Yes. And I can't work as an operator with the contract ops, whereas it says 3.2 people, but you notice I only asked for 2, because I'm an operator. I can fill in that slot as well. So, and then we can readjust from there as we pick up facilities and make decisions, but I think that would be the cheapest way for us to get going.
So we're looking to expand the wastewater department to have 3 staff people.
When needed.
Technically 4, because we just hired one.
Wasn't
make
there
that
also going to
announcement,
be an assistant?
Yes, so we did hire that position today, or I haven't gotten the formal letter, but that person has had the town manager interview, and from what I understand is, we're just pending that.
So there'll be 3.4 staff members?
It'll be, 4 full-time members, but only
full-time
only 3 of us will have licenses. Karen's position, the executive assistant, Karen ultimately did, win the process. We had 2 applicants, we kept it within the town, and both of them interviewed extremely well. It was actually really tough. I was trying really hard to stay away from, well, she's been doing the job, we should just give it to her. And so I was trying to find the tangible, what separates these 2 people, because their questions were spot on, they were answering them, and they were very close. And it basically just came down to that Karen had previous formal training in being an executive assistant, as well as she's actually managed multi-million-dollar projects. And going forward, since we're the next 20 years gonna be doing multi-million-dollar projects, I felt that was the separation, that she has that experience. So officially, I think she starts the 1st of August with us.
And then when are you looking to have it would have to go to October meeting to then appropriate the money for the operators, the other two operators that
Yes,
you'd be
and that'll
bringing
be for
on?
this fiscal year.
Okay.
That's what we're asking for in October, to be funded this fiscal year so that we can get people hired and in place and we start the training and the startup. Everybody's there together, because we've been spending the last couple of meetings and actually tomorrow putting together the training packages.
And that works for the, as our consulting engineer had given us the information that the wastewater treatment facility will be up and running come January, so the staff will be available to start operating,
Yes.
be trained first, and then be ready to operate.
Yes. So that's the whole plan if everything falls into place. The last thing I was going to just touch back on, because we did bring it up last meeting and wanted to reiterate more with the bedroom plan. So the bedroom plan, it's not that it's a new concept. It's a renaming of an old concept. A lot of places do use fixtures as a method of assessing sewer bills, as opposed to doing meter reads. So meter reads, to do them ourselves, we have to buy a lot of equipment, expensive equipment, train on it, and you spend a lot of time because we don't own the meters. So if there's a bad reading, we can't do anything about it until the water department, so we create work for the other departments. They're willing to do the work. Water department's been more than supportive, but they're not willing to change anything that they do. So they do semi-annual billing on a rotating system, you know, 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3 twice a year. And we're too small at this point for meters to be costly. What's gonna end up happening is we could go to a tiered billing system, and we're gonna have like a $1,000 base charge just to get, you know, the first 40,000 gallons, for example, right? So you're back to paying like you were for the bedroom anyways.
So we're
The difference
talking
is
about
You're gonna
the,
pay maybe what a 4-bedroom is, even though you're only using 2. And the reason is, and everybody compares to water. Water has a lot more people there mandated to be tied in a lot of communities. Like, you don't have your own wells in a lot of places. You have to tie in. They have more customers. That allows you to drive the costs down. One of the bad parts about sewer traditionally is it's always a smaller group of people, but yet we have a huge operating cost each year. We understand that with the enterprise fund, we are going to be subsidized by the town for a period of time, but that's why we're looking at these pre-built communities. That's additional homes that can help reduce those costs. Bedrooms were an advantage to fixtures because you have to get in and inspect every once in a while, make sure that nothing's been added or subtracted. Edgartown just did it for the first time in 10 years. It took them 3 years to get through the process because people, nope, sorry, I'm on vacation. Nope, you can't come in. I'm not ready. I have renters. There's a million excuses. Where assessors automatically assess every, was it 3 to 5 years? 5 years? I can't remember. But the bottom line is, that's going to get updated and it's not going to cost us anything. We just get a new bedroom count, and here's what it comes down to. Every community I've been to, it's not fair. How come I'm paying, you know, this amount when I only use this amount? I still have to maintain those pipes. I still have to maintain the plant. I still have to keep it operational, whether you use it or not. You're connected, and we have to rely on that certain amount of money. We try to soften as much as we can by getting more people on there and reducing the cost, but we're just, right now, at that beginning point, and we could invest a lot, in my opinion, a lot more money in equipment and staffing and a lot of staff hours trying to get those meter reads, and then turn around and still charge everybody a lot of money just for that base charge, and you end up paying the same amount. So what we've been doing is working out different scenarios. What if we brought Southport in, you know, based off their operating budget? And I give you in your packet some real quick breakdowns of an example, like if it's $1 million operating budget just for phase 1, we put it $623.83 per bedroom. It makes it projecting our budget each year a lot easier, because what happens is I have to guess off previous usages, and it happened to us in Tisbury last year. We had 96 inches of rain. A lot less people used irrigation. There was just a lot less in the hotel rooms. And we lost a couple $100,000 that year and did not make enough money. Whereas this way, we were gonna say, this is our operating budget. Now let's divide that amongst everybody equally, and we know we make operating budget. And then we build in if we want retained earnings to plan for future phases, you know, instead of putting in these $150,000 articles, we could just pay for them outright. But I mean, that's all that we figure out, what is that golden number and how much do we want to be subsidized by in the beginning. But if we pick up Southport, Phase 2, that should get us off the town subsidy, which I think will make a lot of taxpayers happy, as well as allow us to start paying back the town for the money that they subsidize us. So that is the reason behind it. I went through and I checked every community on Cape Cod plus some off Cape and got what the average bill is. On average, you're looking at about $1,200. Excuse me, average is $960. The high off Cape is where it was at, was actually Plymouth. It was $1,433, and the low was $562 in Dayton. Barnstable was hanging right around $673. But then the communities that are down in those 600s are all being subsidized. So they're not 100% operating independently.
Jared, we have a process of education that's necessary. And you don't have to educate us. We've been living with most of it. And I was living with it when they invented it 10, 12 years ago. What you need to do is get a list published that says the cost in Falmouth is $150 a month. The cost in Chatham is, the cost is. Get all of the numbers and just publish them so that people understand that we're gonna be somewhere in that dance.
Yep.
Okay? Right now, they're afraid of the music.
Right.
They're afraid of the dance. They don't know where it is,
Right.
all right? Now, we're gonna be ethical, and we're gonna come forward, and there's some great advantages of this community in the manner in which we already have plants in existence that we don't have to build, and we don't have to dig up, Southport or anything like that. So there are a lot of financial advantages here, and we're getting mature engineering that other places haven't, that are older than we are. So there are advantages, but the lack of the information coming out of your office is a problem. But your office has not really existed before, so now
Right.
you're bearing all the burden of it. Please publish or send out somehow through the manager, or whatever you have to do, because there was a simple answer to all of those questions. And first of all, it was, hey, the water department is already metering, okay? Good, we're gonna use that, okay? But we were thinking of a fixed overhead because we all are polluting, whether we're gonna get plumbed or not, or sewers or not, or fresh water from the town or not. We're all polluting, even if we have our own well. So therefore, you have some guilt involved. So you pay us $50 a month, period. Everybody in town that has a house, okay? Then have them pay a rate on the water they consume, because then that's the usage thing that was asked for by one of our guests earlier. You have to have a relation to that. And it gets rid of the problem you're inheriting by going for rooms.
Right, so the problem is we're
You're
still
saying
we're in
is,
a rate
you
study
got a
now.
house, so you're gonna pay us $50. Everybody's got a house, they can't argue with that. And if you use water, and then if you have your own well, what you pay is the average.
Right, so it's basically the same concept. It's using the 110 gallons per day, per bedroom. That price actually it does go into a per gallon cost.
You have
We're-
to tell people that's the average, though. Don't grab a number out of the sky. Say
Right.
the average use right now is 110 gallons per day.
So it's actually, that's not even, so we have it broken down if we did it by bedrooms. How many predominantly we have 2-bedroom homes, followed by 3-bedroom homes, then 4, then 5, and then there's a 1. There's actually one single 1-bedroom home. So we were able to break out, if you were gonna be in a 3-bedroom home, this is what your bill would be. And then we have it broken down into if we did it semi-annually, quarterly, or every month.
There's an error in that, though, that 3 bedrooms don't use 110 gallons apiece. It's based on the people in the house.
Correct. But
Okay?
we build the
You do it
plant based off
on
Title V.
population. That will tell you what your consumption is. But those meters are recording the actual number that people can't argue with. So if you use that number, you're gonna get rid of all of the problems you have with your rooms.
Correct, but we're gonna spend more money using the staggered every 6 months meter readings than, time is money. And that would take a lot of time, and it would screw up the billing cycle unless we wanna run it in a offbeat, semi-annual way. It also is different software, so they don't communicate, and the water department is not gonna change their software. We've asked them, and they're happy with what they have, and they're gonna continue going with it.
Yeah, but we don't have to change their software, we can accept it as is.
Right, no, we're using Munis as opposed to the software company
No,
they're using.
we can use their
Let's not
software.
continue to argue,
Yeah,
though. Let's let
but that
Jared.
was all investigated and agreed to, and now all of these things are changing that are creating more problems than actually moving ahead with the solutions.
Let's let Jared finish his presentation, please.
Yes, so we've had a long talk with the water department, and what was good back then necessarily isn't the way it is now, because they're using an older system that literally, it's a guy's private-owned system that he comes in and does the work. He ain't taking on new customers, and he's not gonna build the bridge program for us to get those meter reads imported. If not, we'd have to hand type them in every single payday, and I did that in my last town for the first 2 billing cycles, and it took weeks to get bills
I
out.
wasn't
But the
aware of what
solution-
you just said.
Yeah.
But, so the solution is,
So
as
we're
you're
looking at other
proposing.
options, and this is the one that seems to keep raising out, where you can vet it, you can, if things change, it's not like somebody hid in a sink or put that garbage as well, it can be vetted based off the bedroom size.
You've put a great deal of work into this.
And we will have a.
And you'll
a product,
continue
yeah.
to work on it as we move forward. Because the whole idea of setting the rates is going to be emotional for people to have to deal with.
Always.
Until they understand what the work is that you've put into it to come up with the most fair and the most equitable approach to spreading the damage and spreading the joy across
Yes.
the town. And that's what people need to understand. And so once you have your figures of how you've, and then as Joe had spoken about, of how you've come up with the reasons for it, I think then an education campaign through the website, through conversations, will be able to help people to understand why they're being charged what they're being charged.
Yep.
And have an opportunity for dialogue.
And it'll also be a public hearing. When it comes time, when we've finished the
Exactly.
rate study and we've decided, and it's come down to this is the information, then it has to become a public hearing for those rate studies,
Absolutely.
or for those rate sets.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Do you have another comment?
No, I just,
Making sure I'm not missing anything. Nope. I think that's all of it, other than I gave you just guys a copy, because Chad, since he resigned, it's just the letter he received about the startup process, so,
Okay.
for you guys to read at your convenience.
You've done an enormous
done.
amount of work, and we thank you very much for your efforts.
Thank you.
We're so glad you're on board.
This agenda item, review and discussion with possible vote on additional fees.
I think that was, part of the rate study, the way I took it, I think it was just,
Okay, because we didn't
yeah,
vote on it.
no, there was, we're not ready to, we're still doing the rate study. We're just very much closer to when we were before we kind of really kicked it into gear the last couple of weeks, so.
We haven't really talked about it specifically. You've been working on it for a long time.
Yep.
So I think you've got the first phase of it for us to begin to consider. So when it's time for us to consider it, by, again, applaud your effort and the
I-
hard work that you've done.
I do actually, if we could maybe do that committee we were talking about reviewing the policies, so we can start
Please
cranking them
raise
out.
it.
Yes, so one of the things I'm worried about is it's a pretty substantial policy, and I don't want, for everybody, because remember we talked before about just doing a,
These are the rules and regulations that
Yeah,
we've
remove and replace.
voted for before.
yeah. But I figure so much information, it's gonna take a little bit time to work through, so maybe if we had a committee that would do some vetting
initial
for you
review.
guys, yep, initial vetting, and then maybe we bring forward 3 or 4 of the articles and the policies each meeting, so we can have a little bit more specific talks if we need to, as opposed to saying, here's the big document, and us say, you know what, it's too much, let's just approve it, and then find out I made a mistake afterwards. I'd rather.
You're talking about the rules and regulations?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't you, please, because I was the one that did it originally, I did all 62 pages.
Yep.
Anything that's obvious in there,
That we've missed or we've screwed up on when we reviewed it, redline them, and we'll address them according to what you've redlined. We won't have a general discussion because we don't have enough education to do that. The majority of the documentation in there is valid and won't need to be changed, but there is language errors that
Right.
I've made for sure. I always do make language errors. But the sizes of the pipe and the volumes and all of that, materials, all of that stuff
Yep.
is good. We know that, because that's what it is. Those were the things that were actually copied from code. The rest, language, we need your input on.
Yeah, no, there was just like small additional things, like when constructing a collect system, I would like to have every line on property, private property, have a tracer line with it. That way we can find it in the future. I wanna have the, gator tape is the, I guess, the common name, because they're finding one of the biggest areas of I&I infiltration coming in is plumbers forgetting to glue the pipes. And then that's how, stuff gets out. So this is kind of like if you glued it, this is just added protection. If you forgot to glue it, this will keep it from, getting in that I&I. So those are things that we've added to it. The inspection process, how is it gonna be done? So those are the things that's what the committee will look at.
Is there anyone who would like to work with Jared as a subcommittee then?
I'll work with you.
Al?
I can probably help, yeah.
Al and Catherine will then work with
And
you,
I can be
Jared?
convenient whenever you guys wanna do it. If it's better to do it after work hours, I can do that, no problem. We'll
Excellent.
try to break it down to hour sessions.
Wonderful. Okay.
Perfect. I'll be in touch.
Okay, so this is a subcommittee to review the rules and regulations to get it into the language that you feel more comfortable with.
Yep.
Okay,
Correct errors.
correct errors.
So you'll do the red line?
Yeah, we'll sit
Strikeout
down
thing?
and we'll go through the whole
Oh,
process.
okay. Great.
Are there any other issues that anyone would like to raise?
I was just gonna, with the website, I was just gonna invite people to make suggestions. I think as we moving towards September and October, I want to get updates to the website
Yep.
that are relevant probably to phase 2 and other things that may be coming up and are important to these articles passing. So, yeah, just keep in mind that what we can do, check the website once a week at least and see if something comes to mind.
I just talked to the TV,
Uh-huh.
and it dawned on me, because I don't watch the Mashpee TV, I don't live here, but I remembered my local TV at home, I always had those little, I call them tickers between shows, like what's going on in the community. I says, what does that cost? And they go, absolutely nothing. I'm like, why are we not using that? Go to this webpage, go to the town webpage, or if we have a traffic advisory for the next, when we're in phase 2, I can have a 15-second alternate route thing, poster put up there, minimal wordage,
a quick
look
look.
at it, read it, okay,
Quicker,
cool.
yeah.
Or if I want more, go to the town webpage and just keep reminding them, the
Quick
town
and dirty.
webpage is there.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna start working on that. I just asked him tonight, and it dawned on me.
okay.
But-
One of the issues that always comes up, and it causes more lost time for everyone, all right, is the fact that people don't understand, as a normal person who hasn't built things before, that, as I used to say, all of my documents, all of my blueprints used to have 23 versions before they were done. And then we could say we had a blueprint. But we have the same process with building buildings and putting pipes in the ground and everything. So we have to present it in a manner that says, we expect in January through March to run clear water in the plant. And sometime probably February, overlapping now, February through June, we may start with septic processing. And then after that, maybe May through September, we can pick up as many as 500 houses, okay? Because that will give us a follow-out, that here is when all of you have to hook up your houses. And that's all people want to know. When do we have
Yeah.
to hook up?
It's a basic calendar of expectations,
But
what to
I'm
expect.
saying one-line sentences that are not finite, okay, that say the best shot we have right now, the best guess, I always used to say in a big construction job was, what's our best guess today? Because there's always things that change.
I
And as
know.
long as everybody understands that, you don't have bitching and moaning and complaining.
Yeah,
That's what tomorrow's meeting is. We're gonna put it in a graph-type format where this is, if you're phase 1,
process.
here's the different milestones we're gonna have to hit, these are the timeframes that we're gonna do those in, and this is the
But the
expected completion
words
date,
you
and this is the
use
start date.
say you estimate, we
Yeah.
estimate.
Right.
Do not agree to anything.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So that people understand that it's fluid. That's what is always very hard to
It
get
is,
across.
well, it just, our total plan, because it's because it's in phases to potentially be modified at phases, that's still hard for people to understand. So, yeah, I agree with you. You've got to make it simple.
And that's what we're gonna be discussing tomorrow, and
Well, that
We're
has
gonna
to
hash
be
it out.
posted on the website.
right, but tomorrow, we're gonna sit down with the engineer firm, and this is gonna give them all a chance just to speak. Let's get it all out, let's figure out where we're gonna be at, who's doing what, who's responsible for what, get all that, nailed down, and then I'll build a document from that, and that document is what's gonna go to the town manager, will be presented to you guys for approval, and then it'll go up on the webpage.
And you gotta lie about everything for 4 months, or 4 weeks.
No, don't lie.
right?
So, when-
Because somebody will be calling you, right? January 1st or February 2nd, I wanna know why I don't have a pipe in my yard. Well, that's because we haven't got there, that's why.
Jared, is it reasonable to expect to have a timeline by the next meeting, or do you need a
I mean,
month?
we got a couple hours to put it together.
Would you prefer a month, or is it 2 weeks too soon?
I think we can get it all done tomorrow, it's just a matter of me putting
It
it together
doesn't
afterwards.
matter as
Yeah.
long as it's loose.
Yep.
Don't
So,
be absolute.
We should be ready by next meeting.
So we'll put it on the agenda, it'll be a timeline of where we're going
Yeah.
from here.
Yep.
You've also mentioned Phase 3. Is there, and I'm gonna put you on the spot for just a second, Sandy, but don't feel that you have to answer the question. Where are we going with the bigger picture? Like, where are we gonna be 20 years from now? Is there a point where we can get this timeline of where we are, where we're going, when all of the phases will be, at least on a timeline?
That's why we have a new chairman. She's gotta help us.
Yep, we'll do that, that's all gonna be done tomorrow. That's what I
Okay.
wanna get everything on a tangible, not only the long-term big picture, I want people to see smaller action items in the year. I don't care about the action item that's 3 years from now.
It's now.
We're gonna have, we're gonna have a 5-year plan, but we're also gonna have, in this year is where I wanna put the focus on, because all too often it's looking ahead and not getting what we need to get done now.
Agreed, okay.
I have one more question, potentially regarding the website. And it's a matter of process. Once the agenda is prepared, I know it's a quick thing, but once you have an agenda that's approved, how soon is it before it gets posted to the web page?
Susan, you can answer that for us?
Well, the agenda for this meeting never made it to the website.
Well, that's kind of why I'm asking. Yeah, we're still on a May 20.
It's not my job to post it to the website.
Okay,
It's the clerk's office?
it's the clerk's office?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were behind, and so they had made an administrative decision to not post it.
Okay. All righty.
But we'll try to stay on top of it.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, Madam Chairman, that's a nice ring.
It does have a nice ring.
Hearing no other business, I move we
Oh,
adjourn.
when is the next meeting?
To be determined.
Okay, can you
I'm
let me
going-
know as soon as you do?
Yes, I will. I'll investigate whether it'll be August 1st or August 8th.
Okay,
And then I will let you know as soon as possible, and then we will have an agenda in time for the meeting.
yep,
Okay.
Oh, that's right, the next meeting is on August 1st or 8th.
right.
Yes. So that's why I think you don't want to cut yourself
Yeah, we'll
short.
talk about the second meeting in August. I was
I would
thinking one
agree.
month, the second
I
meeting in
probably
August,
figured
yes.
that.
I'll rush short. Yeah.
It did
yeah.
slip my mind, the August, if it
Yeah.
goes August 1st, that's tight.
No, that would be too tight for you.
Yep.
And you don't want to have to rush to get stuff that you don't feel comfortable with, so let's
Yeah.
not bother with that. Okay, excellent. So, you had a motion?
I had a motion, we adjourn, but I haven't heard a second or a vote.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
And
Okay, and shall we vote? Okay, here.
Aye.
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 I'm
Joe,
gonna just.
say aye.
Well, we have a vote for adjournment.
But vote for adjournment.
Yes.
Oh, let's keep talking.
Too late.
I just
Bob's
turned-
wife is gonna kill
I turned my
me.
phone on, excuse me, I turned my phone on, we have a message from Phyllis sent little after we began the meeting. I have a problem with my car, I'm not able to attend the meeting.
Okay. Well, we are adjourned.
She didn't forget.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll vote.
Thank you. We are adjourned. And thank you.